So, the flag bearer of the National Democratic Congress, John Dramani Mahama, together with few leaderships of the party, on Monday had a meeting with Christians Ecumenical Council in Ghana. The man of peace that Mahama is trying to sort results or solution from the various avenues. He's exploring every possible means to ensure that there is a free, fair election in the upcoming 2024. And so what he's basically doing is he's stretching his hands to every possible angle that he feels could be of help to maintain the peace that we have in Ghana. For that reason, he stretches his hands to these men of God to have a dialogue with them. And amongst them spoke was the Archbishop Duncan William. He touched on few things. Let us hear him.
The masses, there is too much pain and suffering in this country. All our doctors and our nurses are leaving this country. And we just pray that things will be well handled and managed in transparency and fairness, that we will not end up being refugees in any other country, because without proper fairness and honesty and transparency, things may fall out of hand.
All right, so more on this later. Let us delve into other issues. We'll come back to that, and then we'll see what John Mahama as well had to say at that meeting. So, the EC had a press conference which was chaired by Mr. Tete. I really do not know him that much, but then he basically, what they tried doing was to do a damage control of the various avoidable errors that the EC keeps publishing. The first one came, that was day 2 came out, day 3 came out. They were all pointed out to them. And then day 11th also again came out, again pointed out to them. They went, came back, and then their totals, their overall total again came out to be an error. So at this point, it's just becoming too much. And so the EC, in a bid of coming out, came out and said, hey, look, we are not the ones to hide away from our errors. We've acknowledged our errors. And so he mentioned, Mr. Tete mentioned that those errors are not going to affect the overall outcome of the results of the election practically. That's what he meant. Let's listen to what Mr. Tete of the EC has to say.
On the issue of mistakes in infographs that the Commission acknowledged and corrected, it is important to reiterate that those mistakes did not affect the actual number of registered voters per district or region. All the political parties with agents at the various registration centers, including the NDC, have the same registered voters figures as the Commission. As a Commission, we will not hide from our mistakes. What is more important is that we identified what the mistake, why the mistakes happened, and why they were not detected before publication. We have since put in place a system that will make sure this never happens again.
This, personally, I disagree with Mr. Tete on this. And before I tell you what I think, the NDC had a press conference which was chaired by current General Secretary of the party, Fifi Kweti, headed that press conference. And he pointed out how those transpositional figures could be a rigging mechanism for the AC as well as the ruling party, the NPP. Let's listen to Mr. Fifi Kweti.
This situation exemplifies what we term transpositional rigging of elections, where figures are shuffled between categories without affecting the overall total. In the OT region, the day 2 figure of 578 was erroneously swapped with the 3 figure of 1,515. Bono East recorded 2,252 per hour data. This figure will affect the total registered voters of 5,118 for Bono East for the 4 days as stated by the EC.
Now, there you have it. Look, the errors are transpositional errors. In accounting terms, transpositional errors do not affect the overall balance of your books, but they have significant consequences on departments of the organization. Similarly, the overall voting turnout of Ghana in the 2024 election would not be affected, but it would have significant impact on who gets what. For instance, he gave an example of Oti region recording 578 and 1,515 in some instances, and then Bono East had 2,000 plus and was swapped, and then whatever turned out to be 5,118. Look at it this way. If Oti region is a stronghold of one party, Bono East is a stronghold of another party, and Oti region's figure of 578 is swapped, taken to Bono East, and the Bono East figure swapped, brought to Oti region. The voting date, the turnout for Oti region will be impacted, and the turnout for Bono East will be impacted as well. And so you realize that the number of people that would turn out for Oti region would not be able to cast their vote, because the turnout will be more than the registered number that will be available to be voted or to be used for the voters. Similarly, Bono East will be the same. And so then now the question is this: where we're going to have a shortfall here, the EC is going to now step in and then make up for those differences. And what is going to happen? Certainly, the unconcerned party that is sitting on the fence watching is going to be the beneficiary. Certainly the NPP, because they care less about whatever is going on right now. They care less because they know they've got a referee who is the number 12 player on the pitch of them or for them, and so they are just sitting on the fence, unconcerned, watching, because they know whatever the referee says is in their favor. So if those transpositional figures are not pointed out and attended to, they're going to go a very long way, and they're going to impact the overall outcome of the election. Yes, Mr. Tete said it's not going to affect the overall results. It's not going to affect the overall total number that is going to be registered. Fair deal. But it's going to affect the overall voting pattern in the country at the end of the day. And we must not sit for this to happen. And then again, during that press conference, Mr. Fifi Kwete also pointed out that some people are using Ghana card extensively to registering multiple people, and this by law is an offense.
It has come to our attention that EC registration officials, in collusion with elements of the NPP, are misusing the Ghana card extensively. A particularly alarming instance was uncovered at the Pusiga Registration Center, where EC registration officer Muhazu Al-Hassan used a single Ghana card to register 20 different applicants.
This by law is offense. So if Mr. Fifi Kwete is saying this and they have evidence, what are they waiting for? Why can't that person be apprehended? Aside all this, Peace Council comes out and says, have confidence and trust in the EC. Like seriously? Is that all the Peace Council is able to say? Out of all these errors that are being pointed out, and be very careful in choosing my words. I am extremely careful right now. I am extremely careful because these are older people. These are people with gray heads. These are people who have lived significant lives. So I don't want to cross any line. But sometimes you feel like you should just let it loose. You feel like you should just let it loose. Peace Council had nothing to say than to say, have confidence and trust in the Electoral Commission. What kind of confidence? What kind of trust? With all these fundamental arithmetic errors, what kind of trust are we going to have in this Electoral Commission? Are they worth any of it at all? But you know what? Posterity will judge us. Now let's go to John Mahama's meeting with the church's ecumenical council, under which Archbishop Duncan William spoke extensively. And then we also listened to what John Mahama had to say, all his petitions, all his concerns, if at all anything is going to be done about all those. As Ghanaians as we are, let us be careful. Enjoy.
The masses, there is too much pain and suffering in this country. All our doctors and our nurses are leaving this country. And we just pray that things will be well handled and managed in transparency and fairness, that we will not end up being refugees in any other country, because without proper fairness and honesty and transparency, things may fall out of hand. The Ghanaian is a very gentle, don't like trouble human being. It's not true, because I saw what happened 79 and 81, and they were Ghanaians, and some of the violence and the murderers and unrest in certain parts of this country, like what's going on in Boko and other places, they are all Ghanaians. And if we don't manage things well, and we have this mentality and thinking that any party can do whatever they want to do, and the Ghanaian will accept it, and the Ghanaian will live for it, you might be playing with fire. Make no mistake. Because when people are desperate and are hungry, they don't care about what happens. And hungry and desperate people are very dangerous people to manage and to deal with. When demons come into town and possess people, then you will know that maybe you really didn't understand the Ghanaian, because when a demon enters a person, it doesn't care about your tribe or your citizenship. It rules you. So I think that, Mr. Former President, and to your party, we should be very aware of some of these things. I wouldn't want to say much, but I have a lot of questions I want to personally ask, and I believe that all the members of the clergy here have a lot of unanswered questions that we want to put to you, to find and to have some answers, so that we know how to educate our congregation in going forward.
We are preparing for the election, and we believe that as moral voices of society, you must not take your eyes off the ball. The EC is the arbiter, the EC is the umpire, and the EC must not only be neutral, it must be seen to be neutral and non-partisan. Unfortunately, recent events do not give us confidence about this. There is a president who is appointing politically, exposed people into positions of trust where they are supposed to be neutral and non-partisan. And so people who have been communicators for the party, people who have been IT backstops for the party, today are commissioners of the Electoral Commission. How do you expect them to be neutral and fair in what is happening? People who were patrons of TESCON on campus are today commissioners of the Electoral Commission. How do we expect them to be neutral and fair in what is coming up? And so it means that we must be vigilant, we must be more alert. We as political parties are going to use the instruments that are provided in the Electoral Code to ensure that the election is free and fair. We're going to train our party agents We're going to incentivize them to be vigilant on the day. We're going to make sure that we are at the collation centers on time and we witness the tally of the results. We're going to police the election every step of the way. But sometimes there are things that are difficult to control. For instance, our last complaint was about recruitment of returning officers. You heard Hobson Adoye on radio say that they took MPP executives from Kumau and brought them to a Jusu by-election as returning officers. And there are pictures of some of them who are executives. And we are not able to check it because the CI says that 14 days before an election, before the by-election, we were supposed to have the list of returning officers and be able to make an objection if we believe that somebody is a politically exposed person. We went to a Jusu by-election without the list of returning officers. And so it was possible for them to recruit people who were party activists as returning officers.